fantastic guest, Neil Patel. I'm sure many of you know Neil. All of you probably know Neil, but I'm going to list some of his accolades. Neil is a New York Times best-selling author. He is a leading web influencer, according to the Wall Street Journal. He's Forbes' a top 10 pick for top 10 marketers in the world. He's been recognized as a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 30 by President Obama, and a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 35. Neil, you're getting older, by the United Nations. I have to say those credentials are almost as impressive as my own. So, keep working at it, and someday you'll achieve everything that I have. With that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Neil Patel, as you already mentioned. Did a great job going over my bio. A lot of it is just fluff. I'm honored with a lot of the awards and stuff like that. But majority of my career I spent in marketing and just building MarTech companies. I've done everything from, I got my start in the ad agency world, so I had an ad agency. Then from there I got into software. I built an analytics company called Crazy Egg. Then I created another one called Kissmetrics. Kissmetrics didn't end up working out, raised some money, lost it all. And did a few other companies in between. Have an ad agency called Neil Patel Digital. Have a few software companies like Uber Suggest. But yeah, I've just done quite a bit over the years, being in it for almost 17, 18 years now, adds up to a lot of time. And I also wrote the book Hustle, as you mentioned. And if you want to figure out how to hack life, grow faster, succeed, the book is a great way to help get you kickstarted.
Hey, thanks for that. We did something with Crazy Egg very, very early on at SharpSpring, and I mean really early on, and I think the Crazy Egg interaction that we had maybe led to our first 5 or 10 agencies. We have like 2,000 agencies now, and I mean, so I have sort of fond memories. Not that, Crazy Egg's obviously still around and so forth, but fond memories of my interaction with Crazy Egg as well. So pretty neat. And for our guests here, I have to tell you, it's refreshing that somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I just had this company, Kissmetrics. It didn't work out, and I lost all my money." I love the genuineness of it, and I think that's where real learning comes from, when people are open and honest about their successes and failures and what they've learned along the way. So thanks for that. Another fun fact, we were talking right before this, I started out as a bag boy at Publix in my teens, and you worked at an amusement park. I think you said picking up trash when you were a teenager, and now you're one of the best known digital marketers out there. Why do you think that happened, and how did it happen?
I believe hard work goes a long way, especially manual labor. When my daughter grows up, I want her to experience something similar. Just picking up trash, cleaning restrooms, sweeping up vomit. It's a shitty job, but it teaches you the concept of hard work and what it feels like to make an honest dollar. And life isn't easy for most people. And I believe if you can grind it out, do jobs that suck, that most people wouldn't dare to do, then you can succeed in almost anything in life as long as you put in the effort, time, and energy.
Here's a question. Where do most people get conversion paths and conversion rate wrong? And, what can they do to improve?
Yeah, so most people think it's things like, I got to do, you got to eventually A/B test to try to improve your conversions. But most people think that I got to, create amazing copy or do this one tweak. It's no longer changing the color of your button is going to drastically improve your conversion. Sure, if you're using red everywhere and your button color is blended and no one can find it, yes, then maybe changing a color is going to really help boost conversions, but no one's really doing that these days, right? People have a sense of, hey, this is good UX, this is good design. the big mistake I see agencies making is they're not doing multiple things to boost their conversion. What I mean by that is, do you have the correct landing pages that adjust the copy for the people coming to the page? Are you tracking each user specifically, assuming you're following GDPR rules and whatever laws the US or other countries have? And adjusting what you're showing the person and personalizing things. There was a copywriter, Frank Kern. He's an amazing, brilliant copywriter. Learned a lot by just reading books by Ogilvy, right? The old age marketer who said, 80 cents on the dollar gets spent on the headline, which he's totally right. And when you think about it, just most people are trying to optimize copy or some element. And although that's great, it's about having the touch points in all parts of the funnel. So for example, let's say someone added products to a cart, but they didn't complete it. Sending them an email then to get them to come back, great. Is it going to 10x your business? No, but that every little bit adds up. We consider it marginal gains. There's a British cycling coach called Dave Brailsford, and won the Tour de France with his team many times. And everyone's like, hey, what's the secret of winning? And he's just like, look, it's all the little stuff that adds up. It gives you marginal gains. And what he means by that is, everyone's training hard. But if you're not comfortable when you're pedaling that bike, you're not going to do as well. If you didn't get a good night's rest,
I know
as well. So little things that add up. The pillow, the shoes, the seat. It's the same thing in your business. You got to do all those little things.
All of our agencies, in one way or another, are charged by their clients with bringing more traffic to their website. So even before conversion, even before you get people, to the website and convert on site. You've got the challenge of getting people to your website, and I know you've got you're entrenched in SEO. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you have any advice for our agencies?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest thing right now is how much amazing content can you end up producing. And the reason I say amazing is there's a few things. Well, first is Bill Gates once said content is king, and he's totally right. The more content you produce, that's amazing. In general, the more traffic you're going to get. Because content has keywords in there. People naturally link to it. It builds that brand, that trust. And you can do keyword research using any tool, the Ahrefs, SEMrush, Ubersuggest, Moz, whatever it may be, to find the popular keywords and writing topics around that. But things have changed over the years, in which now there's roughly 1 billion blogs on the internet. That's roughly one blog for every 7 people. Just think about that for a minute. Do we think we really need more blogs? Probably not. But here's what's happening. If there's that much content out there, Google now has their prime pickings. Facebook has its prime pickings. YouTube has its prime pickings. And when I'm saying there's 1 billion blogs, I'm talking about text-based blogs. I'm not even talking about video-based blogs, but the number is just gigantic. So the big thing that you need to end up doing is, how can you go out there and create better content than anyone else? And all these search engines and social sites, they're optimizing for user experience now, not just, hey, how many backlinks do you have? Google's releasing a page experience algorithm in the future in which they're like, do people actually find this page valuable? Because it's not just about a robot. Does a robot, look at social shares, backlinks, keywords, but what about the person? And if you optimize your content for the person, and the easiest way to do that is Google for any keyword you want to rank for, and look at the top 10 results, and look at them and be like, what are they lacking? What are they missing? How can they make the page better and more actionable? And if you go and you create content that's 5-10 times better, you're going to be much more likely to win in the long run. Yep, and speaking about email, what's crazy is most people think the bigger your list, the better off you are too. And it's like I always tell them, you need to scrub your list as frequently as possible, because the solutions from Outlook to Gmail to Hotmail, they're doing it where if they see that you're sending emails to a lot of people, but they don't even open it, and they just keep skipping it, eventually those emails, even if they don't delete them, archive them, mark them as spam, if they don't even touch them, eventually the algorithms for these email platforms are just pushing them into the spam box or the promotion tab. And because it's like they're realizing that the engagement's low, and that goes back to what we're talking about, which is experience. Put the person first.
That's right.
First, you're more likely to win in the long run. From whether it's traffic acquisition, conversions, it's all about the user experience.
What's some advice for creating interesting and useful emails?
Sure. So first off, create emails that educate. If they can help people when they can read it and say, oh, I now know what to do, and I have the steps 1, 2, and 3, and I can go implement it, your emails are going to be much better off, and they're much more likely to read your next email. The second thing is your content educational? I mean, conversational, not educational. The first
Yeah.
And what I mean by conversational is, so when you were in college, and you already know this, you probably had some professors that are really boring and you just fell asleep.
Maybe.
Yeah, and the ones that were conversational, that were fun and engaging, with those, you ended up sticking around, paying attention, and you were able to learn much more. It's not that their information may be better, it's just that the way they taught it to you, right? So having that conversational email is much better. And what I mean by conversational is using the words you or I within your email, make it much more conversational, such as, let's say someone has a client that teaches and sells yoga product, right? And the email title, I'm making this up, is like 101 ways to do advanced yoga for beginners. And you see, and then I'll start off the email like, you see all these crazy advanced yoga poses, but why do you have to wait to do them? Who says you need to be a yogi for 5 or 6 years before you can do them? Wouldn't it be great if you could just learn them and do them now as a beginner? And then you can dive into them and like, well, there is a way. And I'm going to show you 101 advanced poses that you can use as a beginner. Now, that email may not make sense because I don't know much about yoga and I'm just literally making it up off the cuff. But that's an example of a conversational email. And we found that that works really well. The third thing is short, casual subject lines. Your friends never end up sending you subject lines that are all capitalized and professional. A lot of it is just personalized, like, you know, Rick, you know, comma, and then you can say your statement or whatever it may be, or like, hey, Rick, you got to check this out, or this is how you can grow your traffic, Rick. Like, these are all more casual, simple subject lines. They have high from what we see. So I would start there, and then with your emails, a lot of people like using fancy email designs, and there's nothing wrong with that, and every once in a while you should use them and test them out. But we find that text-based emails in most cases have amazing and much better deliverability and less chance of them going into the spam or promotions tab. Not always the case. It depends on the mailing solution. They're more sort of looking at engagement more than anything else, but we are seeing text-based emails tend to, in most cases, have better deliverability.
I've consulted with many SEO firms over the years, and not a single one of them has been in the top 70 percentile of financial successful firms in the digital space. What is it about the SEO marketplace that seems to have practitioners doing solid work, but scraping by on average?
So the problem is right now with most firms is with SEO, it's a really long and hard grind. Most people don't want to put the time and energy into it, which is why most of them just want to stick with paid ads because it's simpler. But either A, what we see is most companies don't want to put in the time and energy and aren't willing to do it long enough. And when I mean long enough, like if you do something for like 2-3 years, you start getting really great results. And then the second thing is people are just doing SEO for the sake of doing SEO, a lot of the practitioners, instead of being like, how do I provide more value than my competition? How do I create better content? How do I create a better experience? And SEO has changed to users and not just, hey, this is what a search engine wants. Because Google knows that if they put what users want at the top, they're going to keep coming back and using Google, and chances are eventually they're going to click on some ads. On the flip side, if Google just puts at the top what bots and computers like and they ignore the user, then what's going to end up happening is people are going to use Google less, go to Bing, which causes Google to make less money in the long run. But we're really seeing most agencies and practitioners and people, what they struggle with is they're doing SEO for the sake of doing SEO. Be like, okay, as a company, you want to rank for these keywords. Let's just go content, build some links, instead of thinking about what do users who are in this industry, what do they want to see? How can I create a better experience than my competitors? How can I create better content, better product, better service? And if you can change your mindset to that, you tend to do a lot better in the long run.
So earlier we talked about it's the sum of all the little things and the incremental gains. And we both jumped on that bandwagon and preached it pretty hard. Nathan was listening. His question is, how do we know how granular to get on your road to marginal gains? So, I take that to mean, how deep do you go, kind of thing. So I'll let you take that. And
very deep. If you think something can provide at least a 1% lift, you go for it. If you think something can provide like a 0.1% of a lift, all right, now you're wasting time. But like, if you think something can get at least a 1% lift or has a shot of it, go for it. Because all 1%, you do 10 of them, you're at 10%. 10% really has a big impact to a business. The other thing too that we notice is typically it's like digging for gold. So when you're optimizing for conversions, trying to get those marginal gains, usually when you find a winner, typically you want to keep digging there because you'll find more gold. But if you keep digging too long, there's really high diminishing returns. An example of this is you adjust your checkout page and you get a lift in your checkout page, and it's substantial. Now, it doesn't mean your business is going to double overnight or anything like that, because there's many other ways people can convert or repeat purchases or whatever it may be. But even let's say if the checkout page alone had a 10% lift, if you saw impact there when you're making a change, then you probably want to keep doing more. Same goes with email. If you start adding autoresponder sequences and you're just like, wait, we're noticing we're getting more sales just because we did an autoresponder sequence. Well, that usually means if email is generating more sales, personalizing your email, trying to fine tune your copy, and continually digging there and trying to do a few other things will also usually provide lifts as well. So when you're planning out your first chunk of content, the way I look at it is I wouldn't optimize it for conversions at the beginning. I would optimize it for relevant traffic. Typically, when you're doing keyword research, a keyword that has high volume, it doesn't necessarily have the highest volume, but any usually keywords that are searched more than 1,000 times a month, and any keyword that has a high CPC. CPC is cost per click. So that means if someone was to bid on that keyword and go after it for ads, they would have to spend a good amount of money. The higher that CPC usually means, the more conversion oriented it is. So with your first group, you want to focus on keywords that have good traffic and have high conversions, or high CPC, and then end up writing content around that and just educate and help out. Now, what you'll find is writing content to drive conversions right away is really hard to rank. A good example of this is if you go and Google auto insurance, the pages that rank organically have a lot of details on auto insurance and go into the specs, how it works, what it is, state-by-state basis, etc. The paid ads just have a screen and probably has very little words, and it just says, enter your zip code to get started, right? Because they're optimizing for conversions.
Right.
If you want to rank organically and get those visitors, you gotta first put out content that educates. And then from there, you can focus on the conversion stuff by doing things like having sliders, pop-ups, call to actions within your text that drive people down your conversion funnels, or collect emails and then you convert them indirectly. But having your content focus mainly on conversions when you're trying to rank it organically is going to be really tough, because what Google is trying to rank is more educational based and less conversion based content.
At what traffic levels do you worry about focusing on conversion rate optimization? That's Paul's question.
Typically when you're getting at least 5,000 or 10,000 visitors a month. When you're getting a few hundred visitors a month, unless it's to pages that are driving a ton of conversions. What I mean a ton of conversions is like usually when you're getting less than 500 or 600 conversion points, whether you're optimizing for emails or checkouts, it gets really hard to do testing. And the reason being is it takes a long time to get to statistical significance, and you need a lot of volume. And if you want to do conversion testing beforehand, optimize for something that's easier to collect, such as an email, a button click, or whatever it may be. And that's not the ideal thing to do Emails, that works, but button clicks, not so much. And then from there, you can eventually, as you grow your traffic more, get more conversions, then you can optimize for, let's say, credit cards, which would be harder to get, and it takes longer to run those experiments.
I mean, if I could sort of sum it up, that means writing content for your website that is user focused. It means that's not enough. Doing working social and email marketing and drip campaigns, all with that same user focus, the education, the conversational nature of it, and the personalization tips that you built in to all that stuff. I mean, for me, it came together in a pretty clear, cohesive vision of what we should be doing as marketers. Did I? Please don't tell me I totally was wrong on that.
You got it. And I think that is the key, right? Really focus on the user. It's not about a button that's going to change your conversions. It's about what are you doing to make the user experience better.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you being here. Take care.